Hello, everyone. Sorry, I had a double thing because I had turned on the microphone too early. So, Tuesday again, Kelly, and how is it? We're back again. It's so quick, isn't it?
I
And
know.
we welcome our guest tonight, Michael Brooks. He is a Beachbody coach, and it's lovely to have you here with us tonight on the Sparkle Hour. So, Michael, how this thing goes, before we go into the subject we're going to talk about, Kellyanne and I have something like a quick question round for you. So basically, we're going to give you two subjects always, or one question, and you just answer as quick as possible. Right? Ready to go?
Go.
First question, pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Favorite color?
Red.
Favorite music?
All music, to be fair.
That's fair enough. Dog or cat?
I didn't get that. What was that?
Dog or cat?
Oh, dog. Definitely dog.
So the famous person that you would most want to hang out with and why?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Famous person. Can it be dead or alive, or does it have to be?
No, dead comes afterwards. So it's alive right now.
Alive. Okay, famous person right now. Probably for me be Jurgen Klopp, because he's the manager of the team I support. So I'd love to sit down and he looks like he'd handle a beer as well. So that would be pretty cool.
Liverpool house here as well.
Pina colada or Long Island iced tea?
Ooh, pina colada. Just
Shower or bath?
shower.
Paris or London?
Oh, I lived in London for so long, so I'm going to say Paris. I've got to say Paris.
Club or a romantic dinner at home?
The right answer is a romantic dinner at home. I'm not much of a clubber, to be honest. I'd rather go to a rock concert, if I'm honest. So,
historical person you would like to have met and why?
John Lennon, because I was absolutely mad on the Beatles growing up, so it would have been amazing to have a chat and just know where his mind was at.
Fantastic.
I think you need to be best friends with my husband by the sounds of it. Liverpool fan, massive Beatles fan. Last one from me is book or TV?
Book. Yeah, I like both, but I definitely think you get more value out of the book.
All right,
for me.
Final question. Chameleon or flamingo?
Wow. I'm going to say flamingo because my girls absolutely love flamingos, and I did the flamingo with the Marlon the other day.
She is going to be happy. She is going to be so happy. She got one, actually, because you're going to see right now in a second, as we always do, safe. Here we go. It is now and show. And there we go.
There we go.
We're 1-1. So, oh well, that's all right.
Can't win them all, Chris.
Yeah, I can't win them all. Exactly. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about you, and we're going to talk apparently about ME, which I let you explain, because where people say like me, what's me? It's really not so common to hear about it. While I did some research on it, it's actually quite a big thing. 865,000 patients in the United States been actually diagnosed. And the research is very lacking, actually. They're actually arguing about that. The research has not been done because most of physicians have not even been trained on it. Actually, it's not part of the medical training in the United States, which I found really surprising to me. So, up to you, Michael, here.
Cool. So, well, do you want me to say a little bit about myself first, or just go straight?
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Just tell a bit about yourself and.
Cool. Well, obviously you know who I am now, but I've been coaching for just started 2 years now. My second year has just started. But before that, I was in the food service industry, if you like. So I did a lot of it was private households I worked for, so it wasn't in restaurants or hotels. Although I did do restaurants and hotels. I actually even went over to France and worked in France for a little bit, which was pretty cool at such a young age. And then I suddenly became ill with glandular fever, which on the face value doesn't sound, it's quite a common illness. Many people have it, but I was ill with it for about 6 months. I was signed off work. I was in a really bad way, and I never really recovered from it. And so that's how they think what triggered my ME. But I'll get onto that in a second. So because of the illness, I now am a stay-at-home dad with my 2 beautiful daughters, one of which is 5 and goes to school. The other one is an absolute terror, is 1 and believes the house is hers and everything that's in it is hers. So with the eldest, she was pretty calm, I would say, but the youngest, not so calm, and definitely a lot more bolshy and a lot more. She wants to be into everything, and I mean everything. So you want a cupboard empty, and she'll empty it for you. She won't want anything out, she'll empty it for you. So yeah. So my day is pretty much taken up with that, as well as trying to look after my health and fitness when I can, because the illness sometimes doesn't allow that. So but I can touch onto that in a second as well. And I've got obviously a beautiful wife who's actually not feeling that well and is currently in bed, which is really weird because all 3 of them have been poorly, and it's normally me that's poorly. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here, because they're normally looking after me. So it's quite bizarre having the shoe on the other foot for once. So, but yeah. So ME then, this is a big subject because I don't think, I didn't know what it was, if I'm honest. So I had glandular fever. This was back in 2004. And I just suddenly felt really like I had no energy. I couldn't get out of bed. I was trying to go to work. I remember it was a busy week at work. And I remember one of my friends had to carry me back to bed because I managed to get to work, but I couldn't get back up. It was really, really strange. And went to the doctors and they weren't sure what was wrong. So I got signed off with stress at first. They thought it could be stress. And I was like, I don't know what I've got to be stressed about. I was about 23 at the time. It definitely didn't have anything that I would have said would have been a stress. And then I had another blood test, and that's when they found the Epstein-Barr virus, which is the glandular fever. So they signed me off for 4 weeks. They were like, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 4 weeks. So we'll give you the 4 and see how you are. I came back to see him 4 weeks later, I was still poorly. Came back another 4 weeks after that, still poorly. Came back another 5. You can see how the cycle went on until I gradually started getting better. But I never fully recovered. I don't know whether I tried to get back into work too soon or whether I kidded myself that I was feeling better because I wanted to get my life back on track, if you like. And I just kept on. I'd have weeks where I'd be okay, and then all of a sudden I'd be completely out. I'd be bedridden, and I didn't know what was going on. And it got to the point where the personnel department then were like, well, what's going on? You have these periods of weeks where you're not at work. What? So we didn't know what was wrong at all, because it's such a bizarre illness. And like I say, ME especially at that point, was very it wasn't unheard of, because it was about, I think in UK it's 250,000 cases that are diagnosed, but at that point it was very, very few and far between. Like I said, I'd never heard of it. And it was my nan, God bless her, she was reading a newspaper, and you get like the Sunday magazines. It was a Sunday paper, and it had one of the magazines that came out of it, and right in the middle was this big spread of about 4 pages of this girl who'd been suffering with this mystery illness called ME, and it listed all the symptoms: the fatigue, the aching limbs, the brain fog, literally all of these symptoms that are. And my nan was like, "Oh, that sounds like our Michael." So they sent the magazine down to my dad, and he phoned, I think there was a number on there for the ME Association. So we phoned them up and basically said what I was going through. And they were like, well, it sounds like ME, how long's it been going on for? And they said, well, since he had glandular fever in 2004. So this was the back end of 2005, beginning of 2006. And they were like, well, so it's over nearly 2 years. So you've got to have this symptoms for at least 6 months for it to be classed as or be diagnosed as ME. So they asked where we lived, and because I lived in London, I was quite lucky because I think at that point, I don't know what the statistics are now, but there was only 3, I think, fully recognised ME clinics in England at that point, and one of them happened to be in St Bart's in London. So they said basically go to your doctor, get a referral and go to this clinic and hopefully you'll get a diagnosis. And I was quite fortunate. I managed to get the referral. It took a little while to come through, but in 2006 I went because I'd been going to hospital after hospital as well in this period, especially when in 2005 when no one could explain why I was getting poorly all the time. And every time my blood was coming back as normal, and I was like, something's wrong, I'm not making this up. And then part of you then's thinking, oh, am I making this up? Am I thinking I'm ill when I'm not? Because you do have all these things that although it's not a mental illness, you do get a mental side effect from it, especially when people aren't believing that you're poorly, which is that was the hardest thing. And then I finally went to this clinic and had all my bloods taken again and had to do not a fitness test, but I had to have like a medical exam to see what I was capable of. And I could barely walk at that point. So I was literally getting a taxi to the clinic every time I had to go, which was quite expensive, as you can imagine. And and then I got my diagnosis in 2006. And at that point, I was generally bedridden unless I was at the clinic. I'd have to save up my energy all week to be able to go to the clinic on the Friday. And it was, which in one sense I feel quite fortunate for, because some people can't even, if you're in that, there's like a 5% who have got it severely all the time, and they don't even get out of bed. And so I feel quite lucky in the sense that I can sit here and know that I relapse, which is the pain, but I do get better periods as well. So I have periods of where my health, I'm never fully 100% the Michael I was before I got the illness, but I can cope with day-to-day living, like looking after my daughters. And I mean, I left work to kind of be able to do this because we thought at least I'm at home. But I don't know which is easier now, being at work or looking after the kids.
Yeah, I feel that pain.
So they're quite a bundle of energy. I mean, I've seen, and your little one is up with you on the picture that we had today on the announcement, and it's quite funny. It's like, I mean, I watch your stories, and you're really dedicated to your girls, and it's really it really touches me to see that, because obviously I know that you're struggling, and sometimes you just say, can't do it today. I'm not in the energy to do these things. And I think that is really, it must be really horrible. I mean, I know that, I had certainly cannot compare that with it, but I had a couple of years, about 13 years ago, I had a complete burnout, but a really burnout. And I know the feeling when you're not even capable of doing the most minimalistic task, like getting out of bed, going to the bathroom, getting a shower done. It's just like, I was really poorly. And so I understand the feeling of when the energy just evades your body. And so that must be, and it's a constant, that must be just really, really tough for somebody to go through. And as I said, I did just some research, and I looked in the States, and how you said there's just a certain percentage that is really bad, that can't even get out of bed. But the way how I see you and what you do, there are not many percentage that are like you as well. There's a broad middle part where they actually yeah, they can do basic tasks, but that is already the maximum. So while you do insanity, I mean, I know I mean, I'm actually, you just graduated from insanity, and Kellyanne will love that because she is an insanity life trainer, and it's like it's just, you must be very proud of yourself. And it's a lot of thing. I think when we are mindset coaches as well here, and I think a lot that has to do with mindset as well, to overcome certain things and say, okay, fine, I can just accept it and just suffer in my own issues, or you can say, well, I'll do at least as much as I can. And I force myself as well to do certain things, and I think that's as well, a lot of things has to do with mindset, because a lot of people just give up, and I think that is exactly the wrong thing you can do, because then you actually let the illness define you, and not anymore, you don't define the illness anymore. I think it's just really what I think, and I think it's really important. And when I see you, I'm just always amazed, especially knowing the background. So
I think it's hard as well, because when you are put, like when I relapse, because what's really bizarre this year is I did relapse in January. I was doing 9-week control freak. I did the first 3 weeks, and then because I get like trigger points, my glands normally, they're the first thing that go. They go really sore. They don't necessarily have to swell up, but they go really sore. And that, because I think that whether that's something to do with glandular fever, I'm not sure. But they're the first thing that go, and straight away, if my glands get sore, we go straight to the doctors, and we go into kind of relapse mode, and we get my relapse plan out. So I have like a list of things that I've got to do to try and
keep it in check.
You can't control it, but kind of control my mind a little bit. So I've got little pointers to like think, just simple things sometimes, that this isn't going to be forever. This just little pointers that help me, because when I get into the relapse, like I was in January, I was bedridden, and it was just like, it's so tough and so hard. And then I've gone from that to doing insanity, which some people go, I don't know how you could get, like even my wife Lindsay's the same. She's like, I don't get how you go from being bedridden with ME to getting yourself back to, because it's a long process to get back to normal as well. So it takes, I just feel very fortunate that when I do relapse, I know I can come out of it the other side. But the thing that I think's sometimes a problem, especially for Lindsay, is when I get out of a relapse, I don't want to live like I've got ME, if that makes sense, which is can be very frustrating and very stressful for her, because I'll go, oh God, I'm going to do insanity, and she's like, why would you do that? It's like, but in my head, it's like, well, I want to do it, so I do it, because I know that I can relapse, and then when I can't do anything. I am bedridden, and it's such a bizarre. And I still can't quite come to terms or quite understand how some people have it and they can't get out of bed, or some people have it and can do little bits but can't exercise, and yet I can almost kind of be like a normal person, but I get viruses, like, I'm constantly, I've had shingles 8 times. I didn't even know you could get shingles more than once. So, and that's within like 6 years. And I get virus after virus, but I keep bouncing back. Now, I think personally, I'd rather be in my kind of position, knowing that I can have some quality of life, than someone who's unfortunate enough to be in the severe category, because it's such a hard illness. I think because everyone who has it, so they suffer so differently as well. So it's not like you can go, oh, you've got this, you're like that. It's not, each case is almost unique to the person. So it's such a bizarre illness, and I've never seen or heard anything quite like it before. I mean, I'm sure there's probably more illnesses, chronic illnesses out there that are worse even, but it's just one that I think it's really bizarre, because everyone suffers differently. So that's what makes it really bizarre.
So is a lot of it sort of recognising symptoms when things start to take turn for the worse, and then managing those then?
For me now, that's what it is, yeah, because I think I've still got to try
so how did you get into coaching in the end?
Well, purely accidentally, if one must be honest. It was but it kind of goes back right to insanity now. There is a kind of a link there, actually. So when I proposed to Lindsay, funnily enough, I was in a relapse when I proposed, and I thought, well, if she still wants to marry now that I'm poorly, then she's a keeper. So and she said yes, obviously, and as I got better, I started exercising again, going back to work, and I was up early one morning at the weekend and was in the living room, and this dude came on the TV jumping around like a madman. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And it was Sean T doing T25. And I told Lindsay about it. I was like, oh, I was watching this infomercial type thing, and it looks, we should get it. And she was like, oh, what? And I started explaining. I said, it's Sean T. I've heard of it. I said, yeah, he's the insanity guy. And she was like, no, we're not getting it. I was like, okay, fair enough. So left it at that. And then I was either a week or 2 weeks later, the advert came on again, and Lindsay happened to be, I think she was up, because it was early morning, and she was up going to work. She was a housekeeper, so she would be up for work about 6 o'clock. And I just happened to be out making a cup of tea, and it came on. I was like, this is it. This is the guy. And she watched it, and she was like, okay, that actually looks pretty good. And it's only 25 minutes. I was like, that's what he says. So we bought the DVDs, and that was it. And we just fell in love with Sean T, fell in love with the T25 program, and we just kept on cycling it, because we wanted to get fit for, because we had our wedding in St. Lucia, so we wanted to get fit for that. So we wanted to be, as we've said, have a Beachbody. And I didn't even know the company was called Beachbody back then. All we knew was Sean T. So did that. That's it. And then, of course, the streaming Beachbody On Demand came over. Was it 2017, I think, over here, possibly a bit earlier. And Lindsay saw it, and she was like, oh, you can get it. You can buy the latest programs, or you can just stream their old programs. And I was like, what do you want to do that for? We've got T25. I paid 105 quid for this DVD package. And she was like, oh, but and we kind of left it, and we didn't really visit it again. And then as we got towards the back end of the year, I think Morning Meltdown had come out, and Lindsay had been watching a lot of Jericho, and she was like, but if we get it, we could do it from January the 1st, get it for a year. If we don't like it, we don't have to get it again. I was like, do you know what? Go on then. And she showed me Lift 4, and I was like, do you know, I've never done any weightlifting before, so if we start buying some dumbbells, I'll do Lift 4, you do. I think she wanted to do 80-day obsession. She was coming with Jericho, but she wanted to do, she loved Autumn and her way of doing the nutrition as well. So she was like all about Autumn, and I was like, I'll do Lift 4. That looks fun, 4 days a week. Doing that, I met my upline coach by or I met his wife, should I say, just purely by accident. She just, I think I must have tagged, like done a hashtag for Live 4 or something, and she came in and she was like, have you heard of coaching? And I was like, I've heard of it, but don't you have to be like a fitness instructor to do it? And she's like, no, not at all. And I went into a sneak peek and I was like, oh, looks all right. And then I relapsed. And at that point I was like, well, who's going to want anyone who's sick, coming in doing coaching? Because I'm my brain's telling me it's all about fitness, jumping around, showing people how fit you are, not anything to do with mindset and getting people motivated to go. I was just like, there's no way they're going to want me. So I kind of fell off the radar. And then I started exercising again when I come out of the relapse, and Megan messaged me. She's like, I've seen you back up and running. Do you want to give coaching a go again? And I was like, well, I'm not sure. And we had a little chat, and then I was like, do you know what? Give it a go. I want to try Shakeology anyway, because we'd heard about it via the T25 DVDs. And obviously, at that point, you can get it over here, and we sure as hell weren't shipping it over from America. So, so we thought, well, let's give it a go and see what happens. And that was 2 years ago, and I'm still here. So obviously, I must be enjoying it. So, but it was never something I ever planned to do. It was just pure, and maybe that's why it's worked quite well for me in some senses, because it was organic. It was never like, I never went down the route, I want to be a coach, I've got to be a coach. I kind of do it my way, and that's the way I enjoy doing it. So,
and I remember we had a conversation months ago where you said, well, at the end of the day, it's not about even getting other people to do it, because yes, that's what you do as a coach, and get them on programs and help them to achieve their goals. And what are their goals actually? But you said, well, first of all, I always do it for myself, because that's what I'm doing. Actually, I believe that it helps me, it helps my mobility, my energy as well. But that's the prime goal, and I think that's what Beachbody's straightforward premises anyway, where they say you always need to look out for yourself first, and you should be the proof of the product, and which you are. I mean, we all doing right now 6:45. I think we're all doing 6:45. I'm in the performance week, so I'm ahead of all of you.
Treat yourself.
So, and I can tell you guys, you're going to be surprised. I'm not going to tell you anything. You're going to be surprised. But you see, it's just really, that's why, I'm not really active as a Beachbody coach. Well, I'm still a coach, but I'm not even active anymore, because obviously our NLP coaching and mindset coaching is taking more and more time of us. And but obviously there are clients of mine that need to exercise more, and they want to exercise more, and they have these fitness goals. And then obviously for me, it's a straightforward given to tell them, listen, instead of driving to the gym, getting there an hour and getting undressed and doing that, you can just pop on your TV and buy a good set of dumbbells, and off you go. And you get actually better and more efficient workout than you probably will get in the gym. Because how many times you stand, I used to go to the gym, and how many times you stand in front of a gym machine and you want to go, that's actually the next thing on your thing, and somebody else is fuffing around there with his phone, and just like, and you're like, dude, do you want to move? Because I want to work out. I don't want to cool down again, because obviously that's the defeat of purpose. If I cool down every time 5 minutes in between the injury, and I actually got like 3 years ago a rotator cuff injury because of that bullshit. I just cooled down, and then I did the pull-up machine, and it just went no, and that was it. So and that's why I think is just why that is so convenient. Now, coming back to ME, how do you? Is there? I mean, the research is very limited as far as I could read. I don't know how it is in the UK. And then I have a question for Kellyanne as well, because how far is the NHS actually aware of this illness? Because I think it's very limited research. I don't know how far you as a nurse know even about it. I mean, you as a military, but obviously, the military nurses and the NHS nurses, you all pretty much receive the same training, right? So It was really interesting for me.
I mean, I'd only heard about it, nothing to do with nursing. It was when I was actually a teenager at school. One of the girls at school got diagnosed with it. And I think she'd been quite unwell and then was just having massive bouts of time off school. But back then, I mean, God, that was what, the 90s, you know, and I never really heard of it again after that. But there are other things as well, isn't there? Like one of my friends got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is obviously, yeah. And I think people are aware of it. But the problem is when you look at GPs, like they literally have to be a jack of all trades. You know, like they literally can't know everything. And I don't know about you, like I've been to my kids' GP before and they've sat and physically Googled something when I'm sat there and I'm like, I could have done that. Do you know? So like to come in
go
with
to
like,
MD, right?
I know,
MD online.
right?
Fantastic.
So bad. And I just sort of think, I don't think it would be the first thing that would pop into their mind, especially like you say, if it's got to be over 6 months. Like for me, I was diagnosed with IBD about 18 months ago. And again, it had to be the symptoms over a year before they would even look at you. So there's a lot of things out there that is like groups of symptoms, but the GPs don't always tend to associate them, if that makes sense. So people do know about it, but it certainly wouldn't be first line for them to look for that. And it's just, I mean, you're very lucky that your nan found that in the paper. That's nuts.
It was crazy, really, because like I said, I'd never heard of it, and then she just found it, and then because the family I've got, they if I'm poorly, they even more so now that I've got the illness, the second I go down with anything, I get constant bombardments of phone calls to see how I'm doing. But back then, because I think no one understood what was going on, and they're like, how's Michael? I'm like, and they're like, well, he can't get out of bed, and we don't know. The doctors are saying there's nothing wrong with him. Because at one point I got told to just go for a walk, go for a long walk, that'll make you feel better. And I was like looking at my partner I was with at the time, and I was like, go for a walk? I can't even get out of bed. Where do they think I'm going to go for a walk? You know, and it just baffled me at the time, some of the stuff that I was being told. But then it wasn't so much the doctor's fault as such, because they didn't know what they were looking for, didn't know what they were looking at. So yeah, and when this magazine turned up, she literally, I think she had it, told my dad and said, right, I'm sending it down. And I happened to be down because I've been signed off again with stress, is what they were calling it, or it might even been depression, I think, because I got signed off for depression as well. And I'm like, I don't feel depressed. I feel really sad that no one seems to know what's going on with me, but I wouldn't say I felt depressed, if that makes sense. And yeah, so when that came in and dropped in our letterbox, it was like almost like a relief. But then it was, now I've got to try and get a diagnosis, because is it that big? It seems like it is. The symptoms are all there. What this girl said she was going through was exactly what I was going through, so it seemed legit. But at the same time, it's like I've been going to the doctors for the past year and a half, and no one knows what's going on with me. So why haven't they suggested this? But then obviously, then like you say, I didn't know much about it. Then doing research about it, finding out that actually there's not much out there apart from some people. There are some doctors who believe in it. Some doctors still didn't even believe in it back then. So, and they said it was all in the mind. It's just like, which is so hurtful in some senses, because I can see on face value they got this illness that they don't really know how to treat, what to do about it, and you can't take a test to prove you've got it. So I can get why they would say that, but at the same time, it's like, as a sufferer, that was really hurtful, because it felt like, well, you don't believe what I'm saying, which, I get, you do get some people that go in and kid about illnesses to get time off and this, that, and the other. It happens. But when you're physically unable to do anything, unable to walk, literally having to be taken to the doctor's room, and you're like, but how do you think I got here? You've seen my entourage bring me. It's like, I don't get what you think I'm trying to prove. But as it was, I then got the diagnosis, and my GPs were all, once I got the diagnosis from a professor who deals with ME, it was they didn't really have to touch me as much. I just
Mm-hmm.
check up so they could see how I was doing. They'd get the letters from the clinic, and yeah, and they kind of knew what to look for then. But I suppose, like I say, I was the first person my GP had ever seen with this illness. So I can understand it, but
I think
still,
sometimes they just want to fix it, though, don't they? They want something they can fix, and that's very, very much a doctor thing.
yeah.
You know, which is why a lot of them end up being surgeons and stuff. Like when we look at the guys that do their specialities, sort of military side, a lot of them do want to do something that's straightforward. They can get in there and they can just fix it. And if they don't understand it, it's going to scare them, isn't it? At the end of the day,
Yeah, of course,
they're just
people.
people.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's pretty much it. It's when you go into a job and you got a clear, that's what I'm doing. To have someone come in and go, well, I've got this. What have I got? And you don't know. It must be scary because I'm going there looking for an answer and they haven't got one. So it's must be hard on both. You know, not just for the patient, the doctor as well, but yeah, I just feel sick because there's so many people that don't get diagnosed. They have to kind of self-diagnose because they know they've got the symptoms. But thankfully, I think it's becoming more common now that it's now it's a recognised illness. Whereas, I think it was only 2002 where it was actually passed as recognised as a medical illness, which seems absolutely mad when you think about it. I mean, I was diagnosed 4 years later, so I had more of a shock. But people before that, what was happening to them? You know, were they getting diagnosed? Were they not? You know, 250,000 people in the UK, like I say, that's a stat that they've got of people that have been diagnosed. What about the people that haven't been diagnosed or having to stay? You know, there's probably a hell of a lot more.
What is the underlying figure? That's actually my question I have here, because obviously, you see, I got diagnosed in the early 80s with ADHD, when ADHD was just brand new, because they couldn't understand that I was not, with a lot of people that, first of all, ADHD, a lot of misconception. They think like it's this jumping up and down child that is hyperactive, which actually the hyperactivity is actually in your brain. That's where the hyperactive comes from. It sometimes exteriorizes, and especially in children, it exteriorizes a lot. But I wasn't the typical overall hyperactive child. I mean, I did a lot of sports and outside school, actually, because when I come afterwards, I'm going to talk about it afterwards, because I couldn't do sports in school because my parents got me medically written off because they actually were abusing me. But that's a different story. And to be honest to you, when I got diagnosed with ADHD, it was one of my teachers that actually said, I don't understand it. He's a straight A student. And when we were talking about the Egyptian, I loved Egypt. I thought the history of Egypt was fascinating, and I knew all the pharaohs and all their story and everything. And she was actually an Egyptologist, a specialist. She was in Cairo for many years before she came back to the States, and she was actually saying that she was amazed that within 6 months I dropped from a straight A to straight F. And she said that he's not stupid. He's highly intelligent, but something is going on. And she said, I can see that he has no focus on things when he's not interested and when it goes too slow. And then other teachers were saying the same thing. And I said, like, he can do the biggest calculation just in his brain, but if you tell him to write it down and write down the steps, not happening.
I can't do that.
It was just not working my brain. It was just. And I got so distracted when, literally, sometimes I shouted in the class. And it's like when they were explaining a concept 2-3 times. And I was just getting angry because I just turned around to my classmates and said, are you stupid or what? Because, I got it already the first time he explained it. Why would I even have to go through 2 or 3 times to the same explanation? So obviously they tested me, and then there's this questionnaire, and that was just all new. They were doing this questionnaire on parents' side, on people surrounding teachers, and then my own questionnaire that I had to fill out. And they decided that I was highly ADHD. So I think the scale goes to 150 and I was at 143 or something like that. So I was really high up in the level. So then obviously I got the medication at that time, Ritalin, and that was the first medication they were using. And obviously the symptoms improved immediately, like literally instantly, because yes, now we know that. Having said all that, because I was listening to you when you were saying it's like you want to do, and I think that is as well a point where it gets really frustrating when you go to doctors. Even now, I had to, when I moved to Germany, and I had to get evaluated as an adult, because to get the medication, or to actually get the medication, I have the same now to do it in the UK again, because I moved to the UK, and obviously I didn't take the prescription. They're not even recognized here in the UK, even from Germany, which was kind of ridiculous, because you said at that time the UK was still in the European Union, but they didn't even recognize that. So now I'm up to 3 years waiting time with the NHS to actually get an adult diagnosed. Now, so that basically means I've been without medication for 3 years now. And it's really frustrating, because when you can't do things and people have all these great ideas and say, I always make the biggest example for me is like there are dishes in the sink. My brain tells me I need to do this dishes. I put the water in there, and then my brain gets distracted. So the dishes stay there. So then I come back and I see these dishes again. So I have to do the dishes. So I'm standing in front of them and I'm literally not able to do them. It's not that I don't want to do them. Oh yes, my brain tells me I want to do them. I actually do that. But I can't. I physically can't. And you explain that to doctors and they say, oh, you're depressed. And I'm like, I'm certainly not depressed here. I know. And actually, that is a subsequent thing, because when doctors undermine you on top of this, and you're suffering of these symptoms, and you're not making it up because you suffer, you are in your body. And I actually told one doctor in the face, I said, are you in my body or am I in my body? So when I'm telling you that is what I feel, that is exactly the point. And now, as I said, 6 months ago, I broke down. I didn't even know. I didn't even remember. That's what we talked about a couple of times already here online. That is where I did not even had a recollection of the childhood years with my parents. And I just stood here in the middle of my living room and I just broke on the floor. I actually literally fell on the floor and I was just crying. And I didn't cry since my mom died 25 years ago. And for me, that was even more, 30 years now. And for me was just saying all these images came up. So now there we go with undiagnosed or unknown medical advice, basically. Now, CPTSD. So I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD. Now, PTSD, everybody knows, it's like what you get when you go to war. You have a traumatic incident, and that comes with flashbacks, with physical, auditory, visual, every kind of flashback that comes to and puts you back into this stress moment of your life. However, complex CPTSD is what basically, it's not one singled out incident, it is several or loads of incidents that happened, and they all cause traumatic experiences over your life. So, I did not even know. My brain was so well trained that I didn't even get to this point. God bless my GP, and she is very interested in mental health, that said at one stage, hang on, Chris, yes, we have the ADHD here that we have to deal with, but these symptoms, they're just not normal. And then when I had the breakdown, obviously everything came up. So I could say, sorry, I'm actually questioning here my sanity, because I don't know if that really happened, because now I'm 50 and now I'm dealing with this crap and these images come up and I don't even know if that really happened until I confronted my uncle, because I don't have my contact to my father anymore. And my uncle literally confirmed not everything. He couldn't confirm everything because a lot of things happened behind closed doors, but he confirmed that they beat me up quite frequently. So I was like, okay, fine. So I'm not imagining it here. Obviously, our brain is there. But then here goes you go into the mental health system and you see doctors that are supposed to be specialists, even so bad that the United States has actually put, I think it's the IVS in the United States, the catalog, they have put it in as a complete separate illness and a separate house, like I can't find the word right now. Anyway, complete separate illness. While in the UK, we are working by the DMV or DM4, actually, the catalogue that's in the UK for mental health. It's not even considered as a diagnosis yet. So you are actually going against the battle of everybody. And then they come up like, oh, you're borderline. And I'm like, well, because symptoms of CPTSD or anyway, PTSD and where you have the dissociation when triggers happen, when you go in flashbacks, you actually dissociate from the world around. I mean, I had one stage where I had a call actually by a mental health practitioner from the local community mental health team here that actually triggered me, and that even said to me she was even not sure that I was ADHD, and I was like, so undermining. So that's basically triggered me because my parents undermining me. So it's like I went like in a circle, like a line for 6 hours. I actually went and ran around on the workout mat that I have on the ground like this, and I just had to call a friend. I called everybody. Nobody answered the phone. Sometimes you call people, they don't even answer the phone. It's like in these moments where you need to speak to somebody. And I got a friend of mine on the phone. I haven't spoken to her for 2 years. And she just answered. And I said to her, I said, Lena, I just need to talk to you. Doesn't matter what you tell me right now. I need to talk. I need to get out of this loop because I'm in this loop and I don't get out of this loop. Having said all that, it's just, it's fascinating me how the medical profession even tries to contradict established diagnoses, which there are now. I had a mental health practitioner that actually herself has CPTSD, which is kind of interesting situation as well. But she definitely understands the thing. And they try to put you into a more convenient diagnosis where they can just pump you down with medication that doesn't even help anything to your, maybe some of it might help your diagnosis, but the majority of them don't because they're not for this illness actually, and that's what the thing it is. And I can understand from my standpoint is actually you get really frustrated because, as you said earlier, and that really did strike me, because you said you know what you're going through. You're the best person to tell anybody what you feel. And I find sometimes these half gods in white, and God bless them. I was like, and I know Ken is working in this industry. They don't even take the time to listen to you because they just go tick, 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 tick. Oh no, it's not that one, tick. And, I give you some aspirin and off you go. Basically, I mean, I'm making it really exaggerate, but that's pretty much what it is. While they don't even take the time to listen, and they even try to contradict your personal, what you feel, what is actually happening to you. And I don't know how you dealt with that. It was really, really interesting for me because there must be a mindset as well where you say, seriously, if you're not depressed until then, you get depressed because you actually think nobody's listening to you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that kind of rang true with the way you're saying it, because like my GP was brilliant. He kept on referring me to all the different hospitals, saying it could be this, it could be that. But each time I'm coming back and it was just negative. So it was just like, oh, so there's nothing wrong with me apparently. And then they're like, well, no, there's not. And it's just like, but why am I like this then? And that's why I think they went down the depression route, because they thought, well, perhaps it's a mental illness that you've got. And then that's to say nothing against mental illness, because there's so many thousands of people struggling with that, I think I'm so glad that people are now becoming more aware of mental health, because it's people's mentality needs to be looked after. You can't be having people in that state and not being believed and not being looked after. But from my point of view, I felt like I had a physical illness rather than a mental one. That makes sense. So I couldn't quite understand why we were going down a mental route. And then it kind of contradicts the illness in the way, because then you do start developing depression and starting to get health issues, because part of you is going, well, am I making this up? Am I being believed? Am I not ill? Am I ill? I don't know what's going on. And then you're having a needle stuck in your arm every other week, and each time it's coming out with nothing. It's like I looked like I was a pincushion at one point. I was just like, I don't know what's going on. There's a reason why I am bedridden, and it's not because I don't want to get up to do stuff. I do want to get up to do stuff. I just physically can't. And that was when I think my nan found the article, which just made more sense, because there was even symptoms in there that I didn't even realise were part of like stuff that I was going through, but I never really classed it as a symptom, if that makes sense. Like silly, like little things like you can feel it's like your muscles twitching. And I get it when I'm really poorly with it, when I'm extremely fatigued, like certain areas, my calves, all my muscles start. It feels like something's crawling over your body. It's such a bizarre, and I get it in my eye as well. And sometimes you can actually physically see. Like people used to like, oh, look at your eye. It's really weird. And I never really thought it as a symptom. It's just something I just thought happened. It's just like I didn't put it down to having ME. Is what that was. But yeah, it was just really bizarre reading the checklist and going, right, oh my gosh, this sounds like what I've got. And I think if it wasn't for that, I could be one of those people that never got diagnosed. That I don't know if I would have met Lindsay, for instance, because we met Lindsay at the place where I worked, where they really did look after me, to be fair. And there's so many people that end up having to leave work because they can't work, and the job's going, well, you're never here, why are we going to pay you, sort of thing. Whereas I was in a position where my job really did, they knew that I wasn't trying to pull the wool over their eyes, and they helped me each time I relapsed. They helped me back, brought me back in. And then it was only really the last relapse I had just before Aurora was born, and it was so prolonged, and there was just an incident. We had a really busy week at work, and my boss got pneumonia in both lungs, so he was poorly, and I was only still at that point. I was only meant to be working either 5 or 7 hour days, but this week and the week leading up to it is one of the busiest weeks of the year. And I was coming in for work for 7 and finishing at 7 at night. So that's already almost double the amount of hours I was meant to be doing. And it got to, I was literally sleeping the whole of the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, just so I could get back into work to function. And then I was going into work and I was being sent to a room to sleep there because I couldn't physically do it. I was doing what I could. And then they were like, you look awful, you need to go and get some rest. And it was like, but I can't. My boss is not here, which means I'm the boss. It was. I just felt that the pressure probably didn't help. And that was when it kind of came. We had a sit down and they were like, we think maybe it's time you give up work, because this relapse has been 2 years now. And most relapses, touch wood, prior to that were, I say only 6 months to a year, which in some, when you say it like that, people can go, well, that's quite a long time, Michael. But when you've had one for 2-3 years, it's kind of like it's not as long, but they're normally around that 6 month mark. If they're a bit longer, then so be it. But this one just seemed, I think as well, because I kept on almost getting better, so I'd start going to work more, and then I'd run down again, and all the symptoms would creep back in, and I just wasn't physically allowing myself better. And this it just at the end, and I was travelling into work from where into London from where I live, and so I was losing. If I did it on a train, 3 hours a day just to do that, then add the work on top of it. If I got a lift in for one of the journeys, that would not clear the lift, 45-minute journey into London, so it wasn't as bad. and then the war was born, and I was trying to work, and I was going to work, and I was coming home, and I was just like, so literally I'm coming home, and all she's seen is me going straight to bed because I had to sleep to then be able to go into work the following day, and I wasn't seeing this beautiful girl that was a couple of months old. I was literally sitting there. Obviously, she wasn't sleeping at night, and I was on medications, and I'm still on medication now, but I have to take the medication at a certain time so that I can sleep at night, and it's such a knock-on effect, and it was just like, do you know what? Maybe I'd just be the stay-at-home dad, and I look after the girl as it was. Now it is girls, but and I think in one sense, I miss working? Of course. Do I miss like work friends? Do I miss being able to go for a beer on the way home on a Friday night? Of course. Would I give all that up to do what I'm doing right now? Of course. At the end of the day, I get to see my two girls flourish and grow up, and I get to be a massive. There's so many dads in the world. There's so many parents now, to be fair, because a lot of parents have to go out and work. And I think that's sometimes one of the things, like some people can be like, are you going to do part-time work? Which I am allowed to do with the way I had to leave my job. I'm allowed to go back into part-time work when I'm ready. I just can't do a full-time job. But and I was just like, well, there's no point. And people go, well, why do you not want to go back to work? So, but it's not so much that. But when you're having to pay to put your child into care for the day, I said, it's for a whole day where we live, it's about £75. So it's like £45-50 for a half day, or £75 for a full day. It's like, how much of a part-time job do I need to work just to earn that? Because it's like I'd be literally going to a job to get money to pay or to look after my child. It's like, why don't I just look after my child? Cut out once Atty goes into school, then because she's the youngest, she's only one, so I've got a few more years with her. Then maybe that's a time I can get something that tailors around the school hours, so I can do something that suits our family. So, and at the moment, coaching works because I get to do a little bit. It's like a hobby. It's not. There's no pressure because you can do as much or as little of it as you want, as you well know, and it just works just right for where we're at. And and there's loads of benefits with that. And being in a test group for one of the programs, for starters, that was quite a big benefit. So, you do get some little perks which are really, really good, and the community that comes with it too. I wouldn't have met you guys if it wasn't for that. So,
And that is exactly what it's all about. Now, Michael, I have a question for you because we're reaching here the 1 hour, and then we are actually going to go offline here. What if somebody? I mean, maybe nobody's watching right now because I see the numbers, but obviously this video stay up and people watch it afterwards and the replay and etc. So if somebody feels like has the very similar symptoms, where could they reach out, and where should they go first of all? What is your recommendation to go?
Well, definitely if they've been suffering for a period of time, because like I say, they'll know, because you can't be tired tomorrow and say, oh, I think I've got ME. It's a prolonged
Exactly.
Because that was another little thing that used to get really, like when you'd explain to someone how fatigued you are, and oh, I get tired too. It's like, no, it's not the same. So I've been tired. I've been work tired. I've been busy, normal tired. I know what you mean. That is, it can be exhausting. But imagine waking up and being tired, sleeping, tired, going to bed, then being tired. And that's just one of the symptoms which people tend to focus on with ME. That there's so many more symptoms. So I would say go to your doctor first and ask, or do some research and find out if there is an ME clinic close to you, because that'll be quite easy to find out online now. And then go to your doctor and ask to be referred if you do believe that you've got ME. There's also a couple of websites like the ME Association. It's quite good. There's one that I actually found, which is like a community. I don't really go on there much anymore, but I used to way back when, called Foggy Friends. And that's like a community of people with ME, CFS and fibromyalgia. And I used to go on there quite a lot, and it was it's not nice to meet fellow people suffering like you are, but it's kind of reassuring that there are other people out there, if that makes sense, because then you don't feel quite as alone, and that was a big help. But it also, those sites do give you a rundown of what the symptoms are. There's like core symptoms, and then there's after symptoms. You have to have a certain amount of the core symptoms to be even considered to have ME, CFS, or fibromyalgia. So definitely make sure you fit in that category before you go to your GP. Then ask him to refer you to the ME clinic if there's one like local. I think there's more popping up now compared to when I first had it. So the chances are you might be able to get to one closer. But
we're almost 14 years down the road, or 15 years down the road, where obviously I think things have changed. But as I said, when I did the research on it, it was just, I see how much it's in the States. Right now, it's becoming in the States quite a subject because so many people get diagnosed with it right now. So they're doing research, but obviously the research is still very limited. And as with many illnesses where, unless it's like a flooding like COVID, there's not much done about it, which is a shame because every person that suffers from it has the right to get a better life, and it that's why I don't understand why it's sometimes like really they need a certain amount of cases before they even consider doing research on it, and that is just it's a pity. But it's good that there are associations that try to focus on these things and actually try to force the key players there to do the research and actually look into it, because as soon as they find a stable medication, which we all don't want to be on medication, but I find a medication that helps you because of research, and then that just solves a lot of issues, and obviously that is really important. But thank you very much for being our guest tonight. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will benefit from that and watching it, and that might just reach out to you as well. And if you want to get involved into a good fitness regime, please reach out to Michael as well. We put down his Instagram earlier, and just have to go back to the replay and you'll find it there. So thanks for being our guest. It was our pleasure, I'm sure, Caroline.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll see you next week. I don't know who we're going to have as our guest because, as I said, we were actually looking for Goody to come on, but I don't know how she's getting on. I know she moved. so she might be coming on next week, and but there are a few other guests lined up. So don't miss us every Tuesday, 8 p.m. here on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. So thanks again, Michael, and have a great evening.
See you guys.